once ulterior motives are involved, I'm out. This message has to have depth and weight. It's coming from the purest of places, which is somebody's just love for their recovery and want to keep their recovery and want to give it back.
Remember, Mr. Smith, we're dealing with a bunch of alcoholics and addicts and liars and cheaters and thieves.
That's right.
Yeah.
Some of the best people I know.
So how can we give a bunch of folks like that the autonomy to create it the way they want to? Don't we need to control the shit out of that?
It's obviously been working since the 30s, and I'm grateful we had the opportunity to come in at this stage of the game. There's a lot to enjoy if we just let go of this idea that we've got to be in charge.
Hey there, and welcome to the Recovery Crew here at Deep Waters. I'm Dr. Bob Beare, and today's guest is the return of Scott Smith. Those of you that heard last week's podcast got to hear his story. Today we're going to discuss Tradition 4. It's a philosophical discussion, but it also has to do with how what in 12-step recovery there's a passage that says how it works, right? It kind of tells us how the program works. But there's another thing called the traditions, right? There's 12 of them, and it's probably why the program's been around 80 years plus. One of those traditions, we call that why it works. So why does it keep working? One of the reasons is Tradition 4, which is about autonomy. So there's certain rules we got to go by, but we don't want to constrain people to have to follow all the rules. You know, you can be who you are in this world, and it's a pretty good tradition that hits that paradox between, yep, I'm going to have to do a few things that I may not want to do, but for the most part, I can still be myself. And so we're glad you're here. Deep Waters is a variety of workshops and trainings to help people transcend trauma and create the life that they've been longing for, right? We all want to find that juicy access to that life force. So glad you're here. You're in the Deep Waters now. All right, welcome to the Recovery Crew, folks. And look, the return of Scott Smith. We have the return of Scott Smith. He's come back to our kingdom to drop some wisdom on the topic of Tradition 4, which is each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Our co-host is Camille Reid. She's also the what are you? She holds everything together here. I know that, but I'm not sure what the title is.
Programs coordinator.
Programs coordinator. That's right. And wow, what a great job you're doing too, Camille. So today's episode is, I should intersperse this all the time because we're all in recovery. We're in 12-step recovery, but none of our opinions are the bottom line, and we're not speaking for 12-step recovery in any way. So I just want to be clear about that. Take what you want and leave the rest from everything that you ever hear from anybody ever, but definitely from us.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just briefly check in. Scott is the CEO of several different entities that are saving the world: Extra Mile Recovery, Brightside Sober Living, Ascension House, and we'll give you contact information at the end. Camille, would you give the short version of what's up here at Deep Waters Recovery?
Yes, Deep Waters Recovery. Our next event is going to be the facilitators training, which is on June 4th and 5th. And then later this summer in September, we have the Deep Waters Intensive. If you'd like to know more about that, you can go to deepwatersrecovery.com or email us at admin, ADMIN, at Deep Waters Recovery. We've also got the outpatient program where you can work with Dr. Beare and his colleagues in groups, individuals, family, and couples. And then you can find us on all social media platforms and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube under the Recovery Crew at Deep Waters Recovery.
Yep, thank you. So we're going to talk about Tradition 4. This is a series. This is a series of videos that we're creating. If somebody really wants to dive into this and listen to different perspectives on each of the steps and each of the traditions, that's the purpose here. So the traditions are often referred to as there's a section in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's called How It Works. Often this is referred to as why it works, right? So it works because we have some boundaries around the way that we interact. And this outfit has been around since the mid-30s, and there aren't a whole lot of organizations that have survived the giant, massive growth that this organization has seen without crumbling underneath the weight of itself, right? So these traditions, and I think Scott will agree that these traditions and following these traditions, but not in a rigid way, but by the use of what we call the group conscience. Everybody has a say, and it's difficult sometimes and laborious. It's much easier for a dictator to say, here's how we're doing it, right? Mm-hmm. And but in our fellowship, the idea that everything, I think it's a true democracy. It's close to it as anywhere I know, because I don't care who you are, if you are in the room, you have a say. And even though it's cumbersome, sometimes it gets us there. So this is one slice of it. This is one slice of why it works. And here's tradition 4. Each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. It's this idea that, we get to have a say about what works for us in these meetings and what doesn't work. I don't like that shit. I don't want to do that. I want this. All right. So you get to, maybe there's another group of folks that don't like that shit and you want your own version. All right. Well, we'll do our own version. We'll take our coffee pot and our resentment and we'll go across the street and create a meeting that works for us. And the second half of that tradition is except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. So when you take your resentment and your coffee pot across the street, at least take the basics of what this thing is up to, which is helping the newcomer, right? At least take the basics of the program with you across the street. And there's many stories that have been told about the early days of AA and how they came to this flexible inclusion and autonomy. This whole thing did not come just out of somebody's mind. It came from a lot of trial and error. So that's just my little intro speech about this. I'd like to open a little dialogue here for the three of us to talk about tradition 4.
Okay. Of course, God has blessed me with the inability to remember anything for very long, so I have to go back and read stuff. So I do that a lot. But as I was reading tradition 4, what I realized is tradition 4 basically says, as long as you don't mess with all the rest of the traditions, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. Right? That's basically what it says. So, which, I believe that, Bob talked about the resentment and the coffee pot, going and start another meeting. But the other side of that is that it really strengthens the bond of the people in the group when they're the ones that get to think for themselves and create what works within that dynamic. It brings them closer together because they have to communicate and they have to discuss and they have to, like the book, like the 12 talks about it. And, they're like, they have to be able to laugh at themselves when they screw it up. Like, we screw a lot of stuff up. I don't know if anybody's ever sat in a group conscience, but it's usually a basket case, right? But it's so much fun, and you always come out of it kind of joking about the disaster, but we get stuff done. And we get to make choices. Like, I don't know about you, but the last thing that's going to happen is when you tell me from some faraway place that this is the way that you have to do it. That's right. I'm probably the last person that's going to do it that way. That's right.
I was hoping you give me a little doorway to say this. So Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book I forget which one it's in, but it's the rule of 150. Have you heard about that, Scott? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have not.
Okay.
No.
So there was a study that's been done and then replicated many, many times. They started it with checking it out, doing the study with monkeys. Yeah. So, because we're a bunch of monkeys, really. And what they found out is that when you get a group of people over 150, the rule of 150, they start the connection to whatever started that group gets lost. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is, this is my extension of it, you start making rules for people you've never met.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it starts to crumble. That's why, well, I told a little bit about myself, about grabbing my resentment in a coffee pot and starting my own group. And Scott tells a little bit about himself. Well, why don't you stay in there, Bob? And maybe you could work through some shit. So both are true, right? But here's the point I'm making. I think that's a big reason that Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step groups have survived, is because when it gets to be about that size, there's a group that starts another group and another group and another group, so that we're not making rules for people that I've never made a heart connection to.
I guess Austin is full of resentments and coffee pots. Like, Austin is like, the meetings are crazy.
I was just thinking about that, just like how we are, somewhat blessed in Austin to have so many. Like, I used to decide where I was going to meetings based on what time of day it was. And now it's really like, okay, which meeting do I feel like going to? And I kind of already know like what's going to happen. And, there's certain clubhouses that I really like, and, they have different meetings, and I'm always around like a lot of the young people, and they've turned them into like these indoor, vaping meetings. And I'm like, I can't be in this meeting anymore. Like, these people are crazy. Like, I can't believe they're just smoking in here, because like I used to smoke and now I don't. And so now it's like a big deal for me, but it really isn't. Like, it's a quality meeting. I just like don't want to be around the smoke. And then, then we've got women's meetings and we have men's meetings, and we can go find those people and see what's going on there. So
there's atheist meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
I don't understand it, but I
man, if they're getting recovery out of it,
whatever they're doing.
There's no more religious people I've ever met than the atheists. They're very religious about their and it's
that's a fact.
And actually, I have an atheist within me, and a deep Christian, and a Muslim, and you AA people have expanded my idea of that whole thing. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we've got a lot of different flavors.
Here's the other part of this, Scott. You've been around a while. We want to make sure that we keep the basic stuff of AA, right? Even if we like launch off onto our own. And just so talk about some of the basic.
So I mean, it talks about being fully self-supporting on our own contributions, for example. Like, we have to be, when we start going out and trying to fundraise, and there's a whole lot of things that will tear us up. And by being anonymous and by being self-sustaining by our own contributions, and by not advertising, and things like that, we take away the opportunity for ulterior motives to get connected to it. And once ulterior motives are involved, I'm out. Like, I can, this message has to have depth and weight. And the only way it does that, if it's coming from the purest of places, which is somebody's just love for their recovery and want to keep their recovery and want to give it back. Right. And once we start messing with that,
but that's a wonderful idea. If it's not coming from, I love the way you said that, it's coming from a pure place. Remember, Mr. Smith, we're dealing with a bunch of alcoholics and addicts and liars and cheaters and thieves.
That's right.
Yeah.
Some of the best people I know.
Yes. Speak for myself. And so how can we give a bunch of folks like that the autonomy to create the way they want to, and we can't trust that. So it's we need to control the shit out of that.
I mean, it's obviously been working since the 30s, and it's one of those things where I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to come in at this stage of the game. I couldn't imagine, trying to figure that out in the beginning, and the pitfalls that they went through. And we still go through pitfalls and we still make mistakes, but it's been pretty much established for us as we walk in, and we're super blessed to be able to have it that way. Doesn't mean that we don't all come up with lame brain ideas, though.
Have you, I don't know if you've read the 12 and 12 Tradition 4 section lately, but most of it is telling that story about the dude that was really active in the early days and was on fire because he saw the magic, right?
Yeah.
And he built a 3-story building.
Learning center.
Yeah. Yes. But all straight from the heart, because he knew the world needed it. It's not that it was nefarious or he was trying to even wasn't personally trying to make a bunch of money out of it, but it was a separate from the traditions. He was making it up on his own and then he had a plan for another 7 stories or something like that. This was going to be the AA center of the world, or a certain amount of grandiosity, or what, I don't know if we need to spin it negative or not, but it was a great it was a great learning experience for everybody, including that leader who in the end was able to laugh at himself and say, wow, what a great learning this was for us.
Yeah. And, not to get too Bible-y or anything, but, it's kind of like, the Tower of Babel, where they're, trying to do something great and reach up to God or whatever. And, just, it's a disaster. Right. And we have good intentions to do things, and everything we do, really, we have a good intention behind it. I can tell you that I've seen a group have good intentions about banning someone from being there, or, whatever, and really come back to be a mistake, and having to really take a look inward. And maybe that's part of what it really provides us too, is an opportunity to look at self as a whole and have a viewpoint as a collective. I get a deeper understanding of me and some of my character defects that I might not always be recognizing, that might be showing up, and we get to heal from it as a group. And we get, not only do we make the mistake as a group, but we interact, we get feedback from each other as we go through it. We walk out the other side of it, whether it's a great thing or a mistake thing, and we learn. And
so this is from the 12 and 12. Every conceivable deviation from our steps and traditions has been tried. That was sure to be, since we are so largely a band of ego-driven individualists, children of chaos. We have defiantly played with every brand of fire, only to emerge unharmed, and we think wiser. So
yeah, I mean, indeed.
Yeah, thank God for our fires individually, right? That maybe we don't have to go back and touch it. And thank God for the fires that the founders and subsequent the folks that allowed this divinely inspired movement to be created. Thank God for, or thank whatever universe or whatever label we want to put on it, that we get to work on other shit. It's already done. I don't have to come up with my own program, right?
That's right.
So
don't have to write a new book.
But help me with this, Scott. Help me with this. So now I used to be the guy that said AA is too rigid. It's like, I don't need that shit. And it's like, I'm above that. And I went to some of the other 12-step programs. I thought they were like for us people that weren't quite as far down the scale. But then I realized my story was exactly like everybody in those rooms. So I've been doing this deal for quite a while now. But and I always had a better idea. I'd like to soften this thing a little bit if we could. Could we soften it for me, Scott, please? But I'm in a group right now. There's a whole lot of changing the hymns to neutral. What are they called? Pronouns, to neutral pronouns, and to make sure that everybody's very safe. Make everybody very safe, please, Scott. You can tell I got some resentment. I might have to grab my coffee pot. And now with the Zoom stuff, everybody's putting their hand up, this orange hand or the blue hand. And then there's this, you got to wait. There's 7 people in line, and it takes all the spontaneity out of it. And all right, on and on. Listen to Bob. He's got his own ideas about how this should be.
Bob can start his own Zoom meeting anytime he wants.
I did.
There you go.
I did, but yeah.
But that's the beauty of it. Like, I get in where I fit in, right? Like, I mean, like, there's so many groups to choose from nowadays that like, if I don't like it, shop around, right? Like, go sit in a few meetings. I found a group that I felt comfortable in. Like, and for me, I found a group that didn't give a crap whether I said the word methamphetamine or not in an AA meeting, and like, I respect certain things in certain rooms, but at that room it was okay. And it's easier for me to kind of go interchangeable between those two. So I'm comfortable there. So that's where I'm at. And it's beautiful,
I think what you just said, that whole paragraph right there is the essence of this tradition. Thanks for that. There's always a place, and there's an addict part of me that is looking for some complaints to keep me. Oh, see, now I knew it. I knew they were bad.
That's it. So if I truly am wanting this thing, I will find it. And there's always room for another meeting if you're not getting it where you're at. So.
Yeah, man.
It just takes 2 alcoholics and a big book. You can manage it.
Well, the tradition 4 in the 12 and 12, which is one of the other books that is, one of our texts. It's a very short chapter, and so this is probably there's not much to say about it. If you don't like it, find your own group, and don't use your. Or stick it in there and try to work through some stuff, right? And trust that just about everything's been tried. So
that pretty much everything has been tried at least once, I would say.
So I don't know. I think we could probably leave it at that here today. I'm sure we could come up with many wise things to add to it because of our great wisdom and humility.
Of course.
But so anyway, Scott, thanks for this little chat about a really important concept that has kept this fellowship moving forward for a long time. And I think as it with the other traditions, that they're pretty good concepts for life. I can transfer this to almost every group I'm in. Maybe I can just stick around here and get something and learn something. Maybe I don't have to just hate all these people and push them away. Or maybe, if I don't really like what's happening here, I can go and create something of my own. This does not have to just be about 12-step recovery. That's a pretty good life plan. So anyway, appreciate both of you. Scott, why don't you say a little bit about how folks can reach you?
Sure. You can see what we do at extramilerecovery.com, theascensionhouse.com, or brightsidesoberliving.com. That's all of our levels of care. Please go and check it out. If you'd like to contact me directly, my email is smith@extramilerecovery.com. My phone number is 901-626-4454. And you're welcome to call me, and I'm happy to give you any information you need.
Thank you, Scott. And Camille, how do they reach us for Deep Waters Recovery?
Yes, you can reach us at deepwatersrecovery.com to see what we're up to, what our next events are, or you can send an email to admin, ADMIN, at deepwatersrecovery.com, or call us at 512-677-5847. And yeah, check out our next event on June 4th and 5th, Experiential Facilitators Training, and September is going to be the Deep Waters Intensive.
All right, so stick around, find out more about all of the events. It really, essentially, what we're all up to here is recovering well in a community, healing trauma, and launching into lives that have vibrant meaning for us. Right? It's like let's live this life. Scott looks like he's young, but actually he's an old guy. Me. Not quite as old as me, but it's time we start thinking about, hey, we better live this life here. Yeah, we get to be up here.
That's right. Like, been wasting time. It's time to get on with living and enjoying it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot to enjoy if we just let go of this idea that we've got to be in charge.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Scott, so much for being here. Thanks, Camille, for all of your good energy, and thanks for everybody for joining us here on the Recovery Crew. You are in the deep waters now.